often say in the show that it's been an honour to do this job for so many years, truly. And I use that phrase, in a sort of pun intended way, because as many people know who watch this show on a regular basis, I've been lucky enough to meet so many wonderful stars along the way. And one particular lady for a while actually lived very close to me, unbeknown to me. I actually bumped into the very stunning and beautiful Honor Blackman while she was driving her Mini up and down the road, apparently just trying to break it in. And just the sight of Honor Blackman with that wonderful voice winding down the window saying, "Sorry, darling, I didn't mean to mow you down," you run away and think, wow, what a way, what an introduction. We became good friends, in fact, because she starred in a play, sort of like an autobiographical play at parts, called Dishonoured Ladies. And it was wonderful because it was all about women who'd done wrong, of course, through the centuries. And she just put it over so brilliantly well. I always thought she was an underrated actress. I don't know about you, because people know her, of course, as Kathy Gale in The Avengers, and then, of course, for Bond. But she was in so many other movies. As she pointed out to me, her apprentice really was going way back, but she never actually thought she was going to become an actress. She had other dreams. But it's one particular thing that's now come back into literally the orbit of Honor Blackman so many years after her sad passing, and so many years since it was first released. Let me explain. Morning, good to see you today. Thank you so much as ever for your time. It is always lovely to have your company. And I'm glad you enjoyed the story about the brilliant operatic star Dame Nellie Melba. And as many of you rightly said, yes, of course, the Peach Melba was named after her in her honour at the beautiful Savoy Hotel. People knew how to really sort of oil the works then, didn't they? Can you imagine having a dessert? Have you tried peach Melba? Oh, it's lovely. If it's made the really, the proper way, I could eat it all day, but never get in your soup, would you? That's the thing, those desserts, the more traditional ones that were put together by, I think, expert cooks and chefs and stuff at the time, they're just the nicest, aren't they? I always think, let me know what you think, but I always think it doesn't matter how rich or poor you are, you can't beat something like poached eggs on toast. But how do you like your poached eggs? I like mine rock hard with a bit of vinegar in the water. Well, yes, if you invite me round, of course, I'm just letting you know, but and then a little bit of sprinkling of salt on top. Delicious. And you see, not an expensive meal. Why do you need to keep ordering these bikes to come to your house? Yes, I know I digress. Back as ever to your story of the day. You're telling me off, aren't you? Honor Blackman, a beautiful lady, as I said, and I was lucky enough to get to know her very well. And for me, I remember seeing her on the repeats of The Avengers with the brilliant Patrick Macnee and stuff like that. For me, of course, I think I first remember her as the beautiful character of Pussy Galore in Goldfinger, opposite the equally delicious Sean Connery for many ladies. What I thought was interesting, what she told me, was at that point, I think she was in her mid-30s, and she said she never thought she was going to get the role because Bond was known for casting people, who were relatively young and, as she said, incredibly youthful. But of course, it was her fame attached to the Avengers that really helped, because they wanted somebody who could take on all of those people, including Sean Connery, in that now infamous haystack scene, which apparently has been voted one of the sexiest scenes in movies of all times. You remember it, ladies, right? Absolutely. But there was another thing that, in fact, has now basically taken off. And this has all come around, really, for the fact that, as we all know, we're now in a crime-infested world where protection about yourself is more vital than ever. If you remember, of course, Joanna Lumley in the New Avengers, as Purdy suddenly became the karate-kicking, all-encompassing female who could look after herself. Who remembers the Purdy cut? That's right. But you see, Honor Blackman had been there first and done it, some people might say, a little bit better. Because way back in 1965, she released, alongside Joe and Doug Robinson, her own self-defense book. Now, this really was just a spin-off, a moneymaker, as she pointed out to me. But guess what? It's now taken off again, and publishers are trying to find a way of getting it reprinted at a more cost-effective price. It's now, as you can see, a collector's edition worth a lot of money. So if you have one in the loft, do have a think, because it literally is worth a lot of money. So Joe and Doug Robinson, in fact, did have a connection to Honor Blackman. She'd already appeared with them in other sort of movies for the Rank organisation, and of course he'd appeared in things like A Kid for Two Farthings opposite opposite the beautiful diner doors. You see how it all interconnects. He also turned down the opportunity, according to him, to be the gong man, you know, the famous gong man for the Rank Film Organization. Apparently he just didn't want to be known for his muscles, he wanted to be known as an actor. But he ended up becoming more of a stunt coordinator, finally getting a part in a Bond movie, Diamonds Are Forever, as a sort of diamond heist character, something like that. But it was this book that really set hearts aflutter, seemingly because there's the beautiful Honor Blackman with two equally good-looking brothers, very well developed, and of course the bottom line was it helped sell the book. Then naturally it fizzled out, times move on. In 2024, people are looking to, shall we say, look after themselves more, out and about on the streets. And guess what? Looks like Honor Blackman could rise once again. You could have foreseen all of those years ago when they were just putting this book out. As Honor said to me, she did many things, of course, darling, to make money. I'm an actress. But she could never have thought that actually this might become instrumental and very useful in that concept. You see how it works. So as I say, if you've got a copy of the book, look it out, because you never know, we could be sat on millions. Well, of course, we're chums. You're not leaving me out. I might learn what's in the book and come after you. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.